The Great Vowel Shift was a major change in the pronunciation of the English language that took place in England between 1350 and 1700. The Great Vowel Shift was first studied by Otto Jespersen, a Danish linguist and Anglicist, who coined the term. Because English spelling was becoming standardized in the 15th and 16th centuries, the Great Vowel Shift is responsible for many of the peculiarities of English spelling. Effect. The main difference between the pronunciation of Middle English and Modern English is in the value of the long vowels, described as the Great Vowel Shift. Vowels of Middle English had consonantal values much like those remaining in Spanish and liturgical Latin. However, during the Great Vowel Shift, the two highest long vowels became diphthongs, and the other five underwent an increase in tongue height. The principal changes are roughly as follows. However, exceptions occur. The transitions were not always complete, and there were sometimes accompanying changes in orthography. This means that the vowel in the English word same was in Middle English pronounced re. The vowel in feet was ye. The vowel in wipe was ye. The vowel in boot was a. And the vowel in mouse was a. The effects of the shift were not entirely uniform, and differences in degree of vowel shifting can sometimes be detected in regional dialects both in written and in spoken English. In Northern English, the long back vowels remained unaffected, the long front vowels having undergone an earlier shift. In Scotland, Scots differed in its input to the Great Vowel Shift. The long vowels, ye, and e shifted to ae, ye and ye by the Middle Scots period. A had shifted to ae in early Scots and a remained unaffected. The effect of the Great Vowel Shift may be seen very clearly in the English names of many of the letters of the alphabet. A, B, C and D are pronounced /ye, by, si, die/ in today's English, but in contemporary French they're /a, b, say, de /. The French names preserve the qualities of the English vowels from before the Great Vowel Shift. By contrast, the names of F, L, M, N and S remain the same in both languages, because short vowels were largely unaffected by the shift. Exceptions: not all words underwent certain phases of the Great Vowel Shift. A in particular did not take the step to ye in several words, such as great, break, stake, swear, and bear. The vowels mentioned in words like break or stake underwent shortening, possibly due to the plosives following the vowels, and then diphthongization. The presence of r in swear and bear caused the vowel quality to be retained, though not in all cases. Other examples are father, which failed to become a, and broad, which failed to become osh. The word room, which was spelled as room in Middle English, retains its Middle English pronunciation, so it is an exception to the shifting of a to aish. This is because it is followed by m, a labial consonant. Shortening of long vowels at various stages produced further complications. A is again a good example, shortening commonly before coronal consonants such as d and th, thus, dead, head, threat, wealth etc. was shortened from a to ish in many cases before k, d and less commonly t, thus book, foot, good etc. Some cases occurred before the change of ish to eo blood, flood. Similar, yet older shortening occurred for some instances of oo, could. Note that some loan words, such as souffle copyright and umlaut, have retained a spelling from their origin language that may seem similar to the previous examples. But, since they were not a part of English at the time of the Great Vowel Shift, they are not actually exceptions to the shift. Possible causes. Experts in linguistics and cultural history continue to debate possible reasons for the vowel shift. Some theories emphasize the mass migration after the Black Death in the mid-14th century to southeast England, where differences in accents led to some groups modifying their speech to allow for a standard pronunciation of vowel sounds. Another theory foregrounds a sudden social mobility after the Black Death, with people from lower levels in society moving to higher levels. Another explanation highlights the language of the ruling class. The medieval aristocracy had spoken French, but by the early 15th century they had come to use English. This may have caused a change to the prestige accent of English either by making pronunciation more French in style or by changing it in some other way, perhaps by hypercorrection to something thought as more English. But there is just as much evidence of the hypercorrection to be more English as there is for it to be more French. Another possible influence, the great political and social upheavals of the 15th century, were largely contemporaneous with the vowel shift. The fact that vowel shifts occurred in other Germanic languages as well may indicate that there was some inherent instability in the English vowels used before the Great Vowel Shift. The change could have occurred spontaneously in one dialect and then spread outwards as others who heard it thought that the diphthongs were clearer than the long vowels they supplanted. Effect on spelling. The printing press was introduced to England in the 1470s by William Caxton and later Richard Pyneson. The adoption and use of the printing press accelerated the process of standardization of English spelling which continued into the 16th century. The standard spellings were those of Middle English pronunciation, as well as spelling conventions continued from Old English. However, the Middle English spellings were retained into Modern English while the Great Vowel Shift was taking place, resulting in some of the peculiarities of Modern English spelling in relation to vowels. Other Germanic languages, German and Dutch also experienced sound changes resembling the first stage of the Great Vowel Shift. In German, by the 15th or 16th centuries, long, ye had changed to, e, and long, a to, ish, though some dialects resist those changes to this day. In Dutch, the former became, a, and the latter had earlier become, ye, which then became, angstrom y. In German, there also was a separate, ye, which became, ee, via an intermediate similar to the Dutch. In the Polder Dutch pronunciation, the shift has actually been carried further than in Standard Dutch, with a very similar result as in German and English. Dutch and German have, like English, also shifted Common Germanic, a to, a or, u, as in Proto-Germanic far-t foot German fue, Dutch voet. However, this similarity turns out to be superficial on closer inspection. Given the huge differences between the structures of Old English vowel phonology on one side, and that of Old Dutch and Old High German on the other, this is hardly surprising. While there is no indication that English long vowels other than e did anything but move up in tongue body position, Dutch, u, and German, a appear to have come about through a process of diphthongization. In the very earliest longer, connected Old High German and Old Dutch texts of the 9th century, the vowel a is already largely written wo. That is, it had broken into a nucleus with a centering glide. This complex nucleus smoothed in Middle High German and Middle Dutch, becoming the a of Modern German and the u of Modern Dutch around the same time as the long high vowels began to diphthongize. The a of Modern German has a variety of sources, the oldest of which is Proto-Germanic or, which smoothed before /tdrx/ where the sound was written u in Old High German. In Old Dutch, this sound had become o everywhere, explaining the difference in words such as Dutch boom and German boom. While English has generally kept the original orthography from before the vowel shift, the orthography of German, and to a lesser extent Dutch, has been adjusted so that it corresponds to modern pronunciation. Therefore, pronunciation of German and Dutch words is largely predictable from spelling. As a result, unpredictable pairs such as win versus find, and meet versus great versus threat do not occur. Norwegian, Swedish and Danish, Norwegian and Swedish also experience something similar to the Great Vowel Shift in their back vowels, although the results were different. As in early modern English, ee shifted to a, while the long o had changed shifted to a. But instead of diphthongizing, the older a was fronted to e permal e. Danish has not undergone these changes in the back vowels, but instead the front vowels have been affected. As in early modern English, longer e shifted to a, while long e has moved toward e, almost clashing with long I. See also, chain shift, History of the English Language, International Phonetic Alphabet, Phonological History of English Vowels, The Chaos, Notes. References, Bohr, Alfred C. and Thomas Cable. A History of the English Language, 4 ed. Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, Prentice Hall, 1993, Cable, Thomas. A Companion to Bore and Cable's History of the English Language. Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey, Prentice Hall, 1983, Caragnani, Fausto. Shakespeare's Works and Elizabethan Pronunciation. Oxford, Clarendon Press, 1981. Dillon, George L., American English Vowels, Studying Phonetics on the Nita, Dobson, E. J. English Pronunciation 1500 to 1700, 2 ed. 2 vols. Oxford, Clarendon Press, 1968. Freeborn, Dennis. From Old English to Standard English, a course book in language variation across time. Ottawa, Canada, University of Ottawa Press, 1992, Gar Paragraph RLACH, Manfred. Introduction to Early Modern English. Cambridge, Cambridge University Press, 1991, Car Paragraph Koritz, Helge. Shakespeare's Pronunciation. New Haven, Yale University Press, 1953, Millward, Celia. A Biography of the English Language, 2 ed. Fort Worth, Harcourt Brace, 1996, Piles, Thomas, and John Algeo. The Origins and Development of the English Language, 4 ed. Orlando, Florida, Harcourt Brace and Colorado, 1993, Rogers, William Bill, A Simplified History of the Phonemes of English, Fermanagh, external links, Great Vowel Shift video lecture, Menza, M., What is the Great Vowel Shift? Great Vowel Shift, Ferman Universitia, The Great Vowel Shift, Geoffrey Chaucer, Harvard Universitia.